Now recently, I gave you access to the Omega Test League, of course, which you can find in my Discord, where you can also post your results, or you've just downloaded it and you've been enjoying it. Well, thankfully, we've got some fantastic results that we're going to show you in a new tactic today. Yes, as we can see here, Chelsea, that we've been controlling in the Test League, 106 points, 10 points above Liverpool. Now, we did say the parameters for a success or an elite tactic with Chelsea in this Test League is around about that 100 mark and roughly first or second, depending on how well Liverpool do. Of course, we know that there are better Test Leagues out there. This was just because loads of people asked to use the one that I was using with Inter Milan. It wasn't for me to give out, so we've created this one for you. With that out of the way, let's look at more of what this tactic can do, because Lukaku scored 57 goals in the league campaign in 56 games. That's mental when you consider the teams that he's come up against on a weekly basis. There isn't a bad team in here unless you consider Arsenal, who somehow finished 6th above Inter Milan and PSG. Arteta really is a genius when you think about it. Kai Havertz also got 3rd in the goals tally with 20. Lukaku got the highest average rating, Reece James there in 3rd. And the assist-wise, Mason Mount got 14 assists. 19 player of the matches for Lukaku as well. So a very good tactic this must be. We'll take a brief look at most goals. We scored a ton of goals there. Most shots, we had that as well. The fewest conceded, we're in 3rd place. So by all means, it's not the most defensively sound. But you're going to create so many more chances where you'll be scoring than what you will defensively be stopping. One thing I will say about this tactic is the players definitely need to be suited for it, and if you are in that elite level club of the league, this will probably be better than the underdog team. So don't go messaging me saying this didn't work for me because I'm Bath City in the Vanarama National, or I'm Norwich and I couldn't get Timo Pukki to score 60 goals. Like, sometimes tactics are just not plug and play, but sometimes with the right players who fit the roles, a tactic can be deadly. But what I think is the most important thing from videos like this is that you take in consideration what was working, and if you don't like downloading tactics but you like doing what I do and integrating stuff that works, I'm going to try and explain to you why I think this tactic works. And there's also some other things which you need to consider, tweaks and changes depending on the players that you've got. So please make sure you pay attention to those parts, just in case there's something that might not work for you from the original tactic that you can tweak and change, which will benefit you. Now we're going to take a look at some more results across different leagues in like the real database, but what we have here is a kind of scuffed Christmas tree formation, and that's basically the name of this tactic. It's a scuffed Christmas tree. Usually you'd see a guy in here, and that is basically the Christmas tree formation, right? But no, we're in the defensive midfield role here. We have 2 inverted wing backs on automatic. When I come back to why they're on automatic, it's where I'm explaining the tweaks and stuff and why this thing works. Okay, let's start from the beginning then. We have a poacher role in Romelu Lukaku there. You can see the instructions here if you do not have access to download it, but there will be a download link down in the description. Also down in the description, by the way, is like the Discord, the second channel, Patreon as well, if you want to get access to the save game file of future rebuilds. So when we set a challenge 5 years on, you can do that through the Patreon. All the links are down below in the description, as well as the Discord, where you can post your results from the test league. Smash the like button while you're down there. I mean, it's literally right there, so why not? Going back to the tactic then, if we take a look at the shadow striker role on the right, you can see the instructions here. The Trecatista, I like both of those roles this year. I am fond of both of them, so quite happy. Now, a role which I don't think gets used enough, the defensive winger. Reason for that is the instructions, and you are going to question why the players are in those roles. Again, I'll explain a little bit more. From the creator SNG, who obviously created the Attackalus, he's explained to me why this tactic works and who benefits from the different roles. So obviously both sides, we can see defensive winger there. The DM on defense, we've got the inverted wing backs and the instructions that we have here on both sides. Ball playing defenders on the left, ball playing defenders on the right, sweeper keeper on support. Now it's an attacking mentality, custom tactical styles. So if you're on Xbox and you're trying to replicate it, just do a custom tactical style and copy these instructions. In possession, we're fairly wide, but we're overlapping on both sides, playing out defense. We are shorter passing directness, but with extremely higher tempo. Again, I'll come back to why I think that's really clever. The final third options though, whipped crosses. Now there's something about the whipped crosses which SNG told me, which I'm going to tell you now. The whip crosses really benefit when you have that elite level striker who's good with his head and his feet, like Lukaku, like an Erling Haaland, because you're going to see how many goals Erling Haaland scores using whipped crosses. If you don't have that type of towering power striker, a guy who's good with his head and his feet, possibly changing that to low crosses may benefit you, okay? But whipped crosses, SNG swears by the fact that with Lukaku and with Haaland, players like that, they're just in the right place at the right time all the time for whipped crosses. So take that into consideration when you're basing this around the team that you're using. Make these little tweaks. Play around with them. See which works for you. Place set pieces, and we have a be more expressive. In transition, it's very simple. It is a gegenpress, counter press, and counter, rolling it out. Nothing else selected. And out of possession, we are much high line of engagement, standard defensive line, because we've got quite a lot of lines, haven't we, here? Using that offside trap, though, we are much more trigger press, preventing the short goal kick distribution, and we're getting stuck in. Defensive width is standard as well. Now, just a quick data hub lookup. We have aggressive shooting and clinical shooting here for Chelsea in attacking efficiency, which basically means we're having the most shots per game with the highest conversion rate. That's obviously down to the players that we have being clinical in front of goal, the likes of Lukaku, who scored obviously the most goals in the season, but the shots per game, that's because we're creating so many chances. This is what this tactic does. It gives you the option to create so many chances that if you have somebody who's not as clinical, you might still score the same amount of goals because they're going to have more opportunities to do so. Now, using this tactic with West Ham and all European competitions taken out, West Ham finished in 4th place with 71 points. A very good season for them, might I add. Because not only that, did they also won the Carabao Cup. They beat Chelsea 2-1 in the final. Fantastic stuff. But what is even more impressive is with Villarreal, because with Villarreal, 89 points and only 1 loss throughout the whole season, won the league. Now, what I think is quite remarkable about this is they had 11 draws. If they had a more clinical striker, because I'm going to show you the statistics of Villarreal, it doesn't look like they could find a clinical striker, they probably would have completely dominated the league. Obviously, defensively, they did very well. They had a great goal difference as well, which is surprising considering if you look at the goals tally, we've got nobody there. Gerard Moreno has the highest average rating along with Dani Parejo, but goal difference, we are extortionately high. So statistically, we are still scoring the most goals with 94, but we also had the most shots, for example, and the most points per game. Fewest conceded, we're a second. So we only conceded 3 more than Atletico Madrid. But if you take a look at the squad itself and you select by goals, Dani Parejo was the top scorer of the league, 22, or top scorer of the season with 22. And if we take a look at his form and see where he was playing, majority of the time he was playing as defensive midfielder, sometimes he was playing as a shadow striker. And what we've looked at statistically obviously shows us in the data hub as well, the goal output, high scoring but an impenetrable defense. Villarreal, we are top for the highest goals per game, but conceded with a second lowest. So that obviously shows there in a graph. You can see a lot easier. Now, also, without European competitions in place, Dortmund won the league here with Bayern Munich finishing in 2nd place. They were knocked out quite early on, but what is very fascinating is the amount of goals that Erling Haaland scores just himself. When I say, obviously, that an elite striker will benefit from this hugely, Erling Haaland is one of those names that you've got to consider. 65 goals compared to Lewandowski, who had an unbelievable season with 38. 65. That's mental, isn't it? He obviously had the highest average rating there, but the most assists dominated by Dortmund players because they're just funneling shots into Erling Haaland. They're just constantly giving him the ball and giving him opportunity to shoot. He played all 34 games, got 65 goals with 9 assists and 19 player of the matches. It's quite outstanding, really, isn't it? Let's take a look at the data hub, though, because there's a few things that I do want to show you from this before I explain a little bit more of why I think this tactic works and a few things that maybe you want to tweak should you want to use this tactic if you don't have the correct players. If we're looking at players in the data hub, tackling midfielders, you can see quite a lot of Dortmund's midfielders are in the lots of tackles and strong tackling. Of course, we're getting stuck in. Jude Bellingham is one of those names. Now, remember that, because he's not playing the position which you would think he would. Scoring forwards, Erling Haaland is so high on the list that he makes Lewandowski look like average, compared to really, if you took like this little box area here without Erling Haaland, you'd be like, God, Robert Lewandowski is amazing. He's so incredible. No, Erling Haaland's all the way up there. He's at the top. Quite outstanding, really. Goal output as well for forwards, he's very similar. High quality shooting and a high assister. He's high in that. And shooting forwards, yeah, aggressive shooting, high quality shooting. It's all about Erling Haaland in this because it just works with him. Now, a little goal example of this is a 5-0 victory against Wolfsburg. We're going to see how the poacher role could be just the best role for a striker to get them as many goals as possible. Erling Haaland there. They're just always going to be in around this 6-yard box. And you're going to see he's always there for an opportunity. They don't move into channels. They're not missing out on opportunities because they're not getting into the box. They're there, taking the opportunities, just like that one. Somebody else has had a shot. They're still in and around the area. And when you've got a smart and intelligent striker like Erling Haaland, he's always going to put himself in the best position. He has a great off the ball, for instance. There again, in the 6-yard box. It's just time and time again, people like to use the advanced forward role. The only trouble with the advanced forward role is it doesn't necessarily secure them in the role of the poacher, where you're supposed to shoot as much as possible and be in and around that box. Especially when you have players that have player traits like moves into channels and stuff like that. Sometimes that can be quite detrimental when you're trying to score a lot of goals. Again, he breaks the offside trap and he's there to fire it in. He gets so many opportunities to score. 4 goals, 1 assist in that one game. And if you take a look at the poacher role, his focus on scoring goals is so extreme that he rarely offers much help in construction moves, preferring instead to remain central and sniff out opportunities in and around the box. What we've seen in those 4 goals that he scored was he was always in and around the box, or he was just solely focused on scoring. When you select advanced forward, it kind of has that same effect, but he also has secondary roles which not necessarily take away from the goal scoring aspect, but it just gives him extra jobs. For instance, his primary duty is to be the focal point of attacks, attacking moves, and he's required to both score the goals and create the goals. Sometimes you just need to stick a poacher on it because he is going to be your focal point. Now, other reasons why this tactic works really well, and I mentioned earlier, the inverted wingback is on an automatic roll. When it's set to automatic, we can see when in automatic duty, the inverted wingback will switch automatically between defend, support, and attack duties due to the current mentality. That's your mentality here. So we have it set to attacking, so it will be attacking. What is different about this is when you actually go to select attacking, it changes some of the roles that is hard-coded, such as dribble more. We can see dribble more is selected there, but if we take that back, dribble more comes off on automatic. Why is that important? Now, S&G told me the reason why he found that to be super important was the main reason when this guy picks up the ball and he starts running with the ball because he is told to dribble more and he loses the ball, he then leaves a massive gap open for the attacker who's just won the ball off him to run into, or another player to run into, exploiting the space, and that's where he found that losing possession was costing him the most goals to concede. Whereas, of course, in the automatic role, once this is selected to automatic, it takes off the fact that you want to be dribbling all the time, and you can even select dribble less to stop that player from going forward and doing that. And the inverted wingback, we know, sits in and around this area when you have the ball, meaning that it gives the defensive midfielder a little bit more structural support and not necessarily runs down the wing to cross the ball in. I quite like them, and a lot of people have been using them recently and finding out how good inverted wingbacks can be. The other role that I want to highlight is defensive winger. We can see Jude Bellingham and Rafael Guerreiro is used in this. What's quite unique about both of those players is that the wide midfielder role is not necessarily their natural. I think Rafael Guerreiro can play there quite well, but accomplished, but not naturally. And if you do take a look at Jude Bellingham, this is obviously, of course, after a full season, he is now a natural in there, but probably isn't at the start. Why has S&G decided to select these players in these roles? Well, basically, the defensive winger is more of like a center defensive midfielder slash a wingback rather than a guy who's going to be bombing forward, but it does give you the option to also bomb forward. So, for instance, Jude Bellingham here, we can take a look at his instructions. He is encouraged to take more risk, encouraged to go to the byline to cross the ball, shoot less often, of course, which is really good, and get further forward. But what is hard-coded in there is stay wider, close down more, tackle harder, so they're acting as a centre defence midfielder, but for the wings. That's why he has basically told me to try and instruct you guys that if you are going to use defensive wingers, even if the player you are selecting can't play out on the wing, it might be better suited than playing somebody who is like a quick winger who's good at crossing, good at dribbling, but not the best defensively. If you take a look at Jude Bellingham, he has 12 tackling. He has a decent marking attribute and a good heading attribute. So defensively, he's actually quite good. Rafael Guerreiro is exactly the same. He has a wing-back mentality, so he is arguably supposed to be better defensively than he is going further forward. Although he is a very attacking fullback, that's the kind of a premise that we're going with here. So that is my understanding of what will work with this tactic that I've been told and what I have seen from using this tactic, and I hope you kind of understand that. Of course, please let me know down in the comments if you do like it. Remember to smash the like button. If you want to download this tactic, again, it is down in the description. Of course, you can join the Discord and let us know how you are doing in that test league should you wish to use it. If you have any other weird and wacky tactics that you want me to try, feel free to DM me on Twitter or Instagram or something like that, and I'll be for sure want to take a look. But thank you once again to S&G for providing such a fantastic tactic. Go and try it, go use it, maybe take some bits from it and add it to your tactic and let me know how you do. Thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.